Are you ready to take bold action and live a life of brilliance? Welcome to the Bold and Brilliant podcast, where women leaders share inspiring stories about daring decisions that shape their businesses, their lives, and their careers. Today, I'm with the fabulous and amazing Elaine Williams. Elaine is a video performance coach, speaker, best-selling author, and comedian who helps self-conscious female entrepreneurs to become authentic, confident, and engaging on camera and on the stage, so that they can grow their businesses and attract their perfect fit clients. As we talk, you'll hear Elaine share her journey of entrepreneurship, including one bold decision that's created her path of what was next. Her story of resilience, risk-taking, and transformation will inspire, encourage, and support your personal and professional growth. Please join me in welcoming Elaine to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. Elaine, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited.
Oh, hi, Tracie.
We've been trying to do this for so long. I'm so glad that we're finally here. Welcome.
Thank you, Tracie. I'm so excited to be here. I've really missed you. I just love your energy and your community, and it's just great to see a long lost sister.
I know, same. So for those who are newer to me or to Elaine, I mean, to either of us, what you don't know is that Elaine and I have actually known each other for years. She's been part of the Gather community for a long time. We've been connected for many, many years. But with life happens, things go crazy. And it hasn't been that frequent that we've had a chance to check up, even though we're like aware from social media of what's going on in the world with each other. So we're really excited today to get to talk one-on-one and to share this conversation with the listeners of the podcast, and just to have the conversation, I think, is what I'm most excited about. So
Yes. And as you were sharing that, Tracie, I was thinking about all the things I've learned from you about being bold and how you had started Gather and then COVID happened and you pivoted, and I went on my first cruise with you.
Yep.
And I love my work. I love what I do. I love working out. I'm not good at relaxing. I've gotten way better. And you showed me you are a great power example of like, no, this is your business cruise. And yes, it's to work on your business and to network, but you also can rest extra. You can sleep. And I was like, what? Like,
well, and it's funny that you say that. So I just had the flashback of the last cruise that we were on together, and how I was so in awe of how you like found the people on the ship to get to know. And we made friends with the rock star singer from the show and the music director who was on piano leading the band. And I'm still connected to them. And every time I see them, I think of you. And every time I see you, I think of all of the things that we've had a chance to do together. And you're right. Like you've learned things from me. Fine. I've learned so much from you that, and it's that reminder when we get to see each other. It's like, oh yeah, by seeing you today, I'm like, you know what? I should do a video today.
all right.
Like that's just what happens when we finally reconnect after, it being a little bit of a dry spell. So it's beautiful that we are together today. Yes. But let's turn the focus. I want to turn the focus back to you, because for the podcast, I really want to make sure that anyone who hasn't had a chance to meet you yet, or hear maybe some of the original kind of origin story stuff. And I know that it's, a long drawn out dramatic saga, but let's do kind of the basics of tell people what it is you do, like briefly, but tell us how you got doing that, like a little origin story of how you decided to do the things that you do for people now.
Okay, sure.
And I'm being vague because I want you to define what that is so people hear it more clearly from you instead of me.
Yeah, and it's funny how I keep evolving, my work keeps evolving.
Absolutely.
And basically, I help mostly female entrepreneurs reclaim their voice and their power so that they can show up embodied, confident, wholly, authentically, imperfectly, credible, relatable, charismatic. So it's not about being perfect, it's about sharing your whole self and having space for yourself. And I do that with humor, And I believe in a lot of practice and stage time and screen time and helping people, whether we do a mock podcast interview or I drag a client to an open mic, which is the scariest thing you can do with your clothes on. But once you've survived that, you're like, oh, I didn't die. Nobody threw tomatoes at me. This could be fun, and facing those fears or just learning to trust themselves on a whole new level because that's ultimately we get scared. What if I say, what if I forget something? What if I say the wrong thing? What if suddenly I have Tourette's? Like whatever, right? And and so learning to trust yourself and know how to navigate your nerves when you're
Yeah.
under pressure. So
Mm. Well,
that's
and I love the way that you just, so this is why I wanted you to describe it because I love that description. In the past, it's been like, I help people feel confident on video. And that was kind of it, but that was so rich because it really speaks to the the things that hold us back,
right,
the feeling like we don't know how to say the things that we're feeling and all that. And it's okay that you don't know how to say it. Like just like let it show up and work from there.
right.
Yeah, love
I
it.
love that. And I, I'm always learning things and reading things, and I've been redefining what I do. When I realized when I first started doing stand-up comedy in New York City, people said it takes 10 years to become a comic. And I was like, 10 years? I could be dead, like 10 years. And after, years of going up and eating it or having like two big laughs and then some mediocre laughs and, whatever, like riding that ride, what you learn is to have stamina, but to create safety within yourself
Ooh.
so that you want to read the room but not need the room. Because if
Mhm.
you need them to laugh, they're going to sense it and pull back. But if
Mhm.
you can stand there and stand for yourself, like, I know I'm funny and you can come along or not. It's you chose to be here. I'm not entertaining you against your will. And and that was a huge line of demarcation for me on my comedic journey. And that's part of what I teach and preach with my clients so that they can feel safe within themselves, whether it's on stage, on camera, in an interview, on media. Because
Yeah, I love it.
ultimately,
Okay.
that's the power, right?
Right. So, okay. So let's go further back because you're talking about being on stage, you're talking about comedy, and a lot of people are going to be like, I don't want to be a comedian.
Right.
So
Okay.
go back and tell everyone how you got there because you did want to be on stage. You wanted to be on Broadway. You want like all of these things. And then here you are working with women entrepreneurs. So give us a
Right.
little bit of the
Sure.
journey path.
And why I'm so passionate is I grew up like so many people in a highly dysfunctional family where it was not safe. And uh, so I had to keep moving so that I would not get blasted emotionally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And And so I learned to pour my love and into performing and the theater. And that was one of the constants in my life, music and the theater, while, adults left the country and we moved, lots of pandemonium. And so theater was like my safe place. And when I see, especially, at-risk kids having the opportunity to make art, I know it's so empowering. It can be so freeing because it's their voice. And maybe they don't have a safe space at home or whatever, but they can do it in their art. And so I know so many women who felt like they were not being heard or they were told they were bossy and they got shut down or made fun of or the numerous things that we do and as we're growing up. And so I'm so passionate about helping people reclaim their voice and their creativity, whatever that means for them, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't have to quit your day job and you certainly do not have to want to become a comedian, but how can you express yourself? Maybe it's time for you to take an acting class or go back to singing or pick up the guitar again or all the things like we have a human right to be self-expressed. And when that is squelched and pushed down, that's when we develop illness and all the things. And when we can release it, in healthier ways, more productive ways, the world's a better place all around. So that's really, my mission is to help heal the world, one joke, one story, one video at a time,
Yeah.
and to show others how to do it as well. And so that's really what gets me out of bed in the morning
Yeah.
of, you know,
So
because when
fabulous.
people feel heard and seen and gotten, it's so empowering. And then they also know that their voice makes a difference. And that's like life changing,
It is.
And you asked me about when I had my big bold move. So many, but what just came up for me was when I did the landmark forum.
Yeah.
I was in therapy, I was in my addictions, and I was still very just a real victim to my family, and I had no tools. I was in therapy, but it was like I was chinking away at an iceberg. And then when I did the landmark forum and I really saw how my anger and resentment was really hurting me and nobody else. I mean, for 3 days, I was like kind of nauseous, like, oh, I mean, justifiable, but and so then I had this spiritual awakening and I asked for forgiveness and I forgave. And and then I continued in the curriculum and people kept saying, you are making a difference. And I was like, wait, what? Me? And all of a sudden I had this community of positive, like-minded, supportive people. And the power of community. And all of a sudden people were saying, you, Elaine, you make a difference. And I was like, what? And it was mind blowing, mind blowing. And I think I had just forgotten who I was, but I don't think anyone had ever said, you make a difference, your presence, your voice, and that was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason I'm just so committed to this work because there's so many brilliant people who have forgotten who they truly are.
It's so interesting that you say that because we hear that from a lot of people. Like, one person will be like, don't forget your voice matters. Don't forget that you are worthy of the dreams that you dream. Don't forget that you have massive value to bring, as Katerina says, right? And it's like, that's how we wrap things up. But the more we hear it, the more we believe it. And
Right.
so if you're out there listening and you're just first hearing that the value that like you're making a difference, you who are listening right now, you are making a difference. You might not know who with who or exactly even how, but the fact that you are here, you're learning something from two people that you may or may not have ever met before, you're being inspired, you're showing up, you're doing whatever it is that you do, that is making a difference. You might not know with who or how, but it's happening. And that's just how the world works. People who take action make a difference in people's lives.
I
Full
love
stop.
that. I love that, Tracy. Sorry, I just noticed there's a weird, I'm going to try to use up my glasses. When we did the memorial for my father last year, he did not know the difference that he made. He
Yeah.
really, he struggled with depression and anxiety, and he really was not getting older gracefully at all. We took his keys after one of his strokes, and he was like, I'm going to sue you. Like he was so mad. And so he passed the very last day of February, and then we planned this memorial in like mid-March or towards the end of March. And we honestly had no idea if we were going to have 5 people. And we had people come from East Texas, West Texas, South. People flew in. We were blown away at the amount of love present in this big space. And and this woman talked about how she had come from India and she'd been in a bad marriage and my dad had like taken her in and mentored her and she was had this thriving practice now and it was all thanks to him and it and I just thought, I wish my dad, I mean, he was there, but I wish before he had passed, if he had
Yeah.
known the kind of impact he really had made, because he was such a sweet soul. And so my quest for everybody at the end of the memorial was, can you please call somebody this weekend and tell them how much they helped you and how much they meant to you. Why do we wait
Yeah. I
till the
think,
memorials, you know?
yeah, I think that is so common. I'm thinking, obviously, you're talking about your dad. So I'm thinking about my dad who passed several years ago as well and had dementia for a couple of years before that. But the things that I remember about him are the things like from when I was, in my 30s, 20s, whatever, and seeing him with his community and knowing that like he was a big deal in his community and he had all this impact and all these friends and all that. So that's what I hold on to because, at 80, whatever, and kind of not engaged on a regular basis with a large group of his old friends, like the couple that he stayed with, that he was stayed in touch with, they were all still connected. And if you just go back 10 years, like that collection of people just explodes. And that shows you that even toward the end of life, when things start to slow down, the impact was already made. And it was for a long time. And so for those of us who are kind of there at the end, it's like we forget, but the people who were there 10 years ago never forgot, and people who were there 20 years ago never forgot. And we needed that reminder. but
Yeah,
um but the good news is that the people who were impacted got the reminder by the tragedy happening in the first place. They were like, oh, that's too bad, he did this for me. And so
right,
that's going to happen to all of us, but we don't want to wait until we're gone, like you said,
right.
right? Recognize that you're having that impact now. I'm doing that for them. And the other thing too is to have those conversations. The more we share with other people, thank you, you're having this impact on me. You and I just were talking about that with each other. The more we do that real time, the more we're going to recognize that what we're doing matters, and we're not going to give up, and we're not going to get as tired, or we're not going to think that we got to do something different and always get stuck trying something new instead of really leaning into what it is we're meant to do.
I love that. I love that. And I think of connecting,
Yep.
when I start going too fast and I'm in my head too much and um, you know, I need to stop, breathe, and connect.
Mhm.
That helps me so much.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and I keep getting that lesson over and over again. And I guess, you had said what was the other one bold thing that you
Yeah.
did? And
I
I
mean,
wanted,
doing Landmark Forum is part of your story. That's a huge transformation, right? That was like old Elaine to what became current Elaine, right? But even past that, and you're in New York and you're doing all these things, and then you made another decision to take a turn.
oh,
So talk about that, because that
sure.
that tends to be the type of like taking the turn in adulthood when we're kind of like we're doing our thing and this is what we thought we were supposed to do, but it's not really turning out, or we're not as happy as we thought we would. For a lot of us, it's like being in corporate and then leaving corporate, or for some people it might be like being in a relationship and then getting divorced or leaving that relationship. So talk about your like right turn that turned you to where you are now.
Well, and I feel like this happens to a lot of people. So, I was always pursuing acting and I was always running around auditioning and then I was pursuing stand up and then I was speaking all over the country, but I always still had my day job, which was actually, days, nights and weekends. I worked at this pretty famous steakhouse and I helped build it because when I first started, it was very slow. And I'd be like, well, why are we doing this? And I realized I had a lot more experience than many of my managers. And then I started training everybody and we had evolved. And after 15 years, it was like one of the highest grossing restaurants in America. And then it became number one for a while.
Wow.
And, and there were so many wonderful things about this place, like just fabulous people. They like to hire other actors, singer types. And so we would break into song and dance,
Lots
like
of personality in the room.
so much talent, like so much talent. And unfortunately, there was an old school kind of management where male managers would actually refer to other females as girls.
Mm-hmm.
And there were naked pictures of women in the cigar bar, like, just so many really bad, bad things, and it wasn't just patriarchy, it was sexual harassment, there were just
Yeah.
so many things. And I've always felt like I was protected because, like, when the craziest stuff went down, I was always like out of town on a gig. I would be like, thank you, God. But then people would always come to me and confess things. So anyway, after years of like trying to leave and then got into flipping houses and that didn't work, there were so many times I was about to leave and then I was scared because I had 2 weeks paid vacation, 401k, insurance. Like, those were really great things. I kind of made my own schedule. Um, but I finally realized I just came to a point where I was like, something has to change. I cannot seem to make any traction in my speaking
Mm-hmm.
as long as I'm still there. And what I realized in hindsight was it was such a toxic environment for an empath and a sensitive, loving person like me. I was spending so much energy sort of processing the last shift and then gearing up for the next one, like going into battle
Yeah.
and the commute. So anyway, so when I finally took a leave of absence, I was terrified because that had been part of my identity for 15 years.
Yeah.
I went through getting engaged and then going through a horrible breakup, buying my first house, then buying three other houses, then having the economy tank, like so many things while I was at this place. But I'm so grateful that I finally was like, I don't know exactly what's happening, but I think I have to leave.
Yeah.
And trusting that. Oh my gosh, it was so scary. And Tracy, I would have so much anxiety. I would have to, like, I would eat potato chips. Like,
Yeah.
I did not know how to calm myself down. And I did not know how to work. I was used to like
Well,
having an hour, and all of a sudden I have a whole day to work on my business. So I'd be like, I should do this. No, 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 I should do this. No, in the morning. And so it's been a slow process for me, but I want to share that in case anyone here is, thinking about taking a big leap. And, luckily I had supportive people around me. I had a supportive program, and I did have some money I was able to count on because it did take way longer than I had anticipated and actually making money with my coaching business. And I had agents, but getting myself booked for speaking gigs. So
yeah.
it was a big learning curve, and I'm so glad I did it. But whoo, it was hard. It was
Yeah.
tough.
Well, and you were, like you said, you had been engaged and then you had the breakup. So you were like, you had supportive circle, but you were relying on yourself,
Yeah.
and past decisions and future decisions were all Elaine's decisions.
Yes.
And that is really, really hard. A lot of us who maybe the departure is like from corporate or whatever. So like for me, I also was on my own, leaving, corporate, six figure or whatever, to go work for myself in a field I had never experienced with two little kids. But I had my family, my parents who I moved near, who supported me, but I wasn't going to ask them for financial support. So, you have to have some sort of uh, belief in yourself that you can do it, but you just don't know how yet. And so the the void of what can I do? I have so much time to myself. What should I do next? And I should do this and I should do that and I should be doing this, and so many challenges of trying to figure that out in the short term. Like, it makes me anxious thinking about it
Yes. Well,
again.
it's great. Thank you for this conversation because it reminds me of how far I have evolved
Yeah.
as a human being, as an entrepreneur, as a mentor, coach, and speaker. It's just great to be reminded of that,
Yeah.
sort of trial by fire, if you will. And also like learning more about myself and like what kind of environment I'm going to do well in.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't know until you're like, oh, I don't think this is good for me. So
Yeah.
lots of those kinds of,
And thankfully we are more mature. We have a better understanding of our own triggers, the boundaries we have to keep, or we have to work to keep, and what really allows us to thrive, because there's so many variables. We're talking about a lot of personal stuff, and of course in entrepreneurship, business is personal. It's all intertwined. And so if you don't have a good grasp on how you succeed best for your own kind of mental health, your energy, like all of those things, if you don't have an understanding, whether you have good practices are a different thing, but an understanding of what you need. Like, I know I need good sleep, and if I go 3 days without it, I'm toast. So I better keep prioritizing it, because 3 days comes fast. And also, like, the desire to help matched with the need to take care of yourself, and not just always being a yes, as much as we want to be a yes, because
mm,
we know that if we are a yes for others when it doesn't feel good, it's definitely not going to feel good afterwards, let alone during. It's so important for all of us to have that personal understanding. And so with everything that you've gone through, and going through from childhood to through Landmark, to moving to New York, to going and getting that, taking that leave, which I didn't realize it was a leave of absence. I thought you just quit. So that's, it's also an interesting piece of information, the difference between, I took a leave of absence, I didn't quit. I had a hold, like I could have gone back. Had your little safety net there, but
well,
you knew you needed to not be there, and
it's
what was
interesting
going to happen.
because what I had seen when certain people had given their notice,
Mm,
they were treated
yeah,
horribly
like
for two
blackball,
weeks,
right? Yeah,
like put in the worst sections, called in, then dismissed. Like they had, if unfortunately, two of the main people in most of the power were incredibly, one person was incredibly cruel. He was a raging addict, and the other guy was a psychopath. And so they would do horrific things, not to
mm-hmm.
everybody, but if they decided that you were bad, And so I knew that if or when I finally did quit, I would have to do it not in the typical way.
Yeah,
And so I took a leave at first because I just wasn't sure. And then
yeah,
after a couple of months, I finally said, I'm going to go. But
yeah, not coming
anyway,
back.
another thing I wanted to talk about, Tracy, is I remember, I was always going to transformational workshops and working on my mindset and
Yeah,
my mental habits and educating myself about finances and real estate and I remember people would say, "Oh yeah, this is personal growth, this is transformational." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, like I'm good at it. I love taking it and I'm always working on myself." But it's one thing to do it and then go back to your corporate gig.
yeah,
And then when you are fully flying as an entrepreneur without that corporate gig, that's the real transformation. Like it's like next level. And people would say that to me. And I used to think, oh, it's not that different. But now that I've done it, I'm like, yes, it is. It's very different.
yeah, yeah. Very different. I have a friend who has her own business, kind of, that she created on the side, but was fully employed, and ended up leaving that job. I can't remember the circumstance of leaving, whether she was asked to leave or left on her own accord, but regardless, she kind of, like, the job went away and she had her business, and she's like, okay, well, here's my shot, like, I'm gonna make it happen. And literally within a month she went back, because she wasn't ready. It wasn't, I
Right.
think maybe it wasn't her choice, or it just, like, was that place, but not the idea of that work, right? And so
Right.
for a lot of people, it's like, women, we have a hard time declaring what it is we want, right? What do you want out of your life? What are you
Well,
trying to
okay.
create? Right? I mean, this is a
Yes.
whole new kind of conversation, but okay, go.
No, I mean, absolutely. And I am very passionate about why do you think that is? because we are conditioned to
Well,
be of
yes, conditioning
service.
and patriarchy.
Exactly, because we are conditioned to don't be bossy. Don't be too, if you stand loud and proud and tall, someone's not going to like you. And in the olden days, you would get thrown out of the tribe and you would die,
Yep.
right? And
Right.
so I think a lot of times we don't know what we want because we've been in survival. We
Yep.
have been so busy raising kids, taking care of our parents, taking care of other people's parents, stepping up because nobody else is going to make cookies and do the posters and do the car wash and do the thing. So I'll do it. I mean, they
I
say,
love that you give all those examples having not had kids,
I know, well, I know.
but
I'm,
because
I know I'm an
all of us,
aunt,
the rest of us
but
go
I have
through it.
a lot of
Yeah, yeah,
friends,
yeah.
and they say, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy mom
Yep. Yep.
because
For sure.
there's a necessity to get it done
Make it
fast
happen.
and efficiently,
Yep.
and but yeah, I think it's a really exciting time to be a woman in business, and I think it's also still challenging and overwhelming. And I think so many times we focus on what we don't want.
Yeah.
And so it's great to think about, oh yeah, what do I want a thriving business. I don't need it to be huge, you know,
Yeah.
20 students and 10 VIPs a year. I would be cool with that, you know,
Well,
put in a
because a
couple of
lot of
retreats.
us have an interest to do things outside of our work
Yeah,
that, so it's because it's about the life fulfillment. It's not
right.
about, and this is not necessarily everyone. Perhaps there's people out there who want to have 1,000 employees and make this giant, whatever. I mean, that's not me. It might be whoever's listening, but what I really want is to enjoy what I'm doing, to allow myself to be creative, to meet people, to connect with others, and to also get to explore the world and have adventure and hang out with my husband and see movies. I love movies. Like, what do you love that you want more of? And if what you love is having an impact in, a third world country, yeah, I don't know if we're not supposed to say third world country anymore, but in a country that is struggling for visibility and money and resources, and that's your vision, go have that vision. And
Yeah,
because when you decide what it is that you want, right? I just said, like, what I want. What do you want? And then
right,
go get it and find the people who you can build community with, who can help you get it. And that is what building community is all about, for Gather Community, for you, for me, for the groups that we're in together, so that we can have the resources, whether
right,
they're friends, colleagues, technology, whatever it is that we need to be able to create the vision that we're imagining. And so I want to shift and make sure that we talk about how you're working with clients today, because we've probably already been too long, and I don't want this to not make the recording. But because we've known each other for so many years, I know that we all have evolutions. Every year the Gather community changes. Every year I change what I'm doing. And I know that you're still doing some of the same things, but talk about what that looks like for someone who is like, I like Elaine's energy, but I don't really know what she does. How could I learn more about that?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the question. And yeah, I think you and I could do like 5 episodes.
I
So
know.
maybe we'll do a
Well, we'll
part
do
two,
another
three,
one, but not today.
the series. So, I first started out teaching live video, and then I started doing more short form video,
Mhm.
and people would come in and I would help them get over their fear of being on camera and telling their story and remembering coming from the inside out, your why, and loved it. And then they come and they would be in for 2 or 3 months, and then they would go off on their merry way and later call me and say, I started a podcast and it's all your fault. Or I'm doing a book tour in Europe. And I'm so happy when I get those calls. And I also realize I yearn to go deep with people. Like, because there's so much, I have 2 degrees in theater plus lots of performance, professional training
And you're
in,
so insightful,
right, in New York
right? So you
City.
really see people very well.
Right. And I've had the blessing of a lot of vocal training and body work. And So I created this 6-month VIP mastermind called the Visible Authority Method.
Mm.
And it's really about working with somebody so that they are embodying, they're coming from their deepest core and not getting excited like Minnie Mouse, and really helping them strip away the mask. So we do Meisner work, there's in-person work, there's Zoom work, and we're working on interviewing and media stuff, but also origin story, your signature talk. I just knew I wanted to go deeper with people and the transformation that I see. It can happen fast, and sometimes it's like a resettling, right? And so I have this person, Tracie, and we're having so much fun, and
Not
we'll be
me, someone else.
different Tracie, but such a cool name. But we're doing this work, and then she'll call me and say, "Oh my God, I did the warm-ups, and then when I went to speak, blah 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 blah." So I love being on this journey with her because the goal is, by the time we've done our work together, she is unrecognizable as far as like feeling confident and speaking from her core in lots of different ways and learning to speak concisely but still powerfully. And so that's my latest offer that I'm just having so much fun with, and I want to keep it small because I really hold the space for people, and I'm thinking about my clients all the time, and sending them ideas from TikTok or whatever. And so I want everybody, there's no hiding, because that's not going to serve you. I've been in big programs where I just got dropped in the middle, fell through the cracks, and
Yeah.
so that's what I love doing, is just really going deep with people, and so that they are 100%, ready to go when the opportunities really start happening.
Yeah. So you're working with women entrepreneurs mostly, and people who want more visibility, but maybe also want to do more speaking and have more opportunities, but create, speaking, whether it's for speaking to sell or speaking on, TEDx stages or whatever, right? Like all of the above.
All of the above. And I did this a while ago, but I love to work with women who are in corporate,
Mm,
and maybe they want to be entrepreneurs in 5 or 10 years, but they either have a new position or they're being asked to lead
yeah,
meetings,
I love that.
and they have not done a million voice lessons, and they don't know about executive presence and
Yeah,
being grounded and taking up space and owning that deeper part of themselves.
yeah, yeah,
So I want them to be able to get their voice in the world,
yeah.
in the room.
I love that. I love that. So we have more women leaders in the corporate world as the result. I love that. I
Yes.
remember also, this was a few years ago, you were doing some work with like female attorneys and stuff like that too, which is another kind of similar thing, right? Get up in front of, whether it's the courtroom or the boardroom or the all hands meeting, and show them what you got, like be
Yes.
the authority, like you said, the visible authority that they are, and to show up more powerfully each time that serves them and every single person who's listening and watching them. Yeah.
Yes, Tracy. And it's so interesting because what I've noticed going from the entrepreneurs and then the lawyers and now the
Mm-hmm.
mediators is
Yeah.
a new group I'm working with.
Oh yeah, great.
There are some of the same concern. I don't want to sound salesy. And I'm working with this client, and she's so beautiful, and she has a very like yoga holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just fallen in love with mediation because it's
Mediation.
private, it's
Mm-hmm.
discreet, it can be actually healing as opposed to going to a public thing and having your laundry aired for all to see and have some
Yeah.
judge who doesn't even know you
It's more of
decide
a
the
battle.
truth. Like, it just sounds
Yeah.
horrific. And when we first started working together, she said, "Oh, I just don't want to sound salesy." And so I said, I really invite you, and if anybody listening or watching, you know, really invite you to investigate that word, because truly what we're doing is educating people. Hey, this is how I help people go through, unconscious coupling, if you will, so that the family is still intact and nobody is smeared all over the place.
Yep.
And, what if this could actually be a healing shift and be loving, right? Like there's that potential. And so,
Yep.
anyway, so I just love it whenever I can help people get out of their own way because we all have those beliefs.
Yep. Yeah, the salesy, that word, I mean, it's not even a word, right? Like we made it up.
You're
And
right.
and I always tell people, if you feel like you're being salesy, well, don't. Like
Right.
you're having a conversation with
Right.
someone and are you going to switch to and by now, like no, talk to the person and
Right.
like have a conversation and ask questions and listen and like all of that. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
that we could go on about sales forever
We
too.
could forever.
Okay, my friend, I want to let's do a wrap up. And what I want to do is, because the journey is long and complicated and you've found this new, like doing the small group VIP mastermind situation, the people that are coming your way are like they know but they don't know that they have that value and they want to hone it and they want to nurture it and speak to them, tell them what they need to hear right now.
Sure. So if you have that yearning to tell your story for good and to make a difference and have more of an impact and you're not sure how, keep listening to Tracie. Keep listening to
And
me
you.
and surround yourself with positive, supportive women who will cheer you on. And, that can be harder, you know, they're not everywhere, but there are lots of really cool groups and you will find your way and trust the process. And it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to feel like you're giving birth to an elephant at times. Like, ouch, oh, out, right? But anything worth doing is hard and makes you sweat, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And why are we here? You know? So even if you're not exactly sure, all you have to do is like one baby step at a time, right? And one day at a time and stop waiting because you're never going to feel 100% confident. You're never until you work with me for 6 months, but you're never going to feel like you're really ready. I don't think. Um, when I have a big pressure thing, there's a part of me that was like, I wish I'd, and then finally I'm like, just get over it and go do it.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I just
you're not
needed another week. No, you didn't.
right.
You're fine.
There's always going to be like, well, but do the best you can, prepare for them, and go for it. Like, stop waiting to be perfect because you're never going to be perfect. And people don't want perfect. Perfect women have lame ass stories anyway. And women are we're put up to this thing to try to be perfect, and it doesn't exist and it's not relatable.
Yeah.
People relate to your humanity, your frizziness, oh, great, I got a new wrinkle. Woo! Whatever. I couldn't figure out what to wear, all that stuff. People relate to all of it. So stop trying to be perfect and show up exactly as you are. And that's when miracles happen, when you're authentically, beautifully yourself.
Yes. Yes. Plunk.
Plug.
Plunk. Beautiful. Elaine, yeah, we could keep talking forever. And I'm so glad though that we had this kind of restart after all this time not having a chance to catch up. So I'm so grateful to you for being here on the podcast, for being my friend, for this long-term friendship that we have. Let's keep it going.
Heck
And
yeah.
yeah, heck yeah. And yeah, thank you for being on the Bold and Brilliant podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tracie. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. I'm your host, Tracie Root, and I want to invite you to check out the show notes, find out where you can connect with our guests, find out more about what I and the Gather community have to offer you, and be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Thanks so much.